Hello, one and all, I'm Vince, also known as Pleasantkenobi across the internet, and I have taught myself away from the fucking fantastic world of Breath of the Wild to bring you a competitive league with my favourite deck, Green, White, Death and Taxes, or Green and Taxes for short. If you hear rumbling in the background, that's just my dog running around like a fucking idiot. Also, stop calling it hate bears, you fucking cuckolds. This list is relatively stock compared to what I have shown on the channel recently. Your usual assortment of Path, Hierarch, Vile, Cat Jesus, Thalia, Blade Splicer and Flickerwisp, alongside of course Restoration Angel. In addition to the usual culprits, we have Scavenging Ooze main deck to provide a strong 2-mana threat that has game against graveyard based decks like Doif decks and Dredge, but also gives us health and life against aggressive decks like Affinity and Burn. Eldrazi Displacer allows us to beat up on fair decks by flickering wisps, splicers and eternal witnesses. Meanwhile, Collected Company provides us with some valuable and much needed source of card advantage and selection. It helps us to apply pressure in end steps much like Restoration Angel does, but allows us to go wider and do more ludicrous things. Catching a Blade Splicer and a Flickerwisp, for example, generates us 10 power at the end of turn if you do it in a second main phase. What we've got to remember is that the floor for Collected Company is a lot lower than that of Restoration Angel, so the numbers on those two I'm still out on. I might switch to a 3 Resto 2 Company before I play this weekend. The sideboard is straightforward enough. We have cards that hope to hose certain strategies, such as Rest in Peace and Stony Silence, while we have the attrition winning cards like Kitchen Finks and Mirror Crusader, who laughs in the face of Fatal Push. The spicier cards in my sideboard are the one-off Decoration in Stone in place of the usual Dismember or Sunlance, which is our extra piece of removal if and when we need it, and of course the flying Kitchen Finks himself, Avon Riftwatcher. He is here because he attacks in the air, blocks problem cards like Lingering Souls and Inkamoth Nexus, and heals us. And he has a motherfucking laser thrusters. He has laser thrusters! What a fucking lad! A blue fetch into Mishra's Bauble makes me put my opponent on some form of Grixis Death Shadow, which I was wrong about. I keep a hand off the strength of Aethervar because in Vile we trust. Spell Snare deals with my Skoos, which I'm kind of using to bait out counter spells, as Arbiter is usually better against Suicide Zoo style decks just due to the sheer number of fetches that they run. He resolves a Tasiga and I realise he's in some form of Esper Delve, or perhaps even Delver? No, it's just Delve. Lingering Soul serves to chump my attacker after I've pathed his Tasiga. Unfortunately for me, he has another Tassie G in his hand. Whilst he is tapped out, I main phase the Collected Company to get information prior to an attack. I hit Wisp and Eternal Witness. Witness gets a path to deal with Tassie G number 2, and then my Wisp resets Ewit so I can get Company back in the end step. The value is real. My second attempt to Coco is met with a deprive from him, unfortunately. Meanwhile, my aerial clock meets a path a turn or two down the line, and I continue to draw nothing but fucking lands. The souls start to dent my life total, and I draw more lands. On the upside, some of my lands allow me to draw more cards. And it finds me a Restoration Angel. I consider waiting till I have a Vile on 4 to avoid counter magic, but instead I decide to make a line of play that forces him to have it. My Resto will flicker whatever I need to that he blocks, for example the Eternal Witness here to hit Coco back perhaps for some value. However, he has it and I lose. Questionable line, pushing a risky line that ultimately wasn't worth it and resulted in me losing the game. I mulligan to 6 with a tapped land only. I benefit from my opponent having a little action early as well. However, Lingering Souls is the bane of my fucking life once again here. It pads his life total out with blockers. I wisp out 1 by bringing it in with a Vile. I make a Stirring Wildwood and I swing for big damage with my whole team, and he just takes it like a man. My next attack is into an open 4 mana, so I feel a Restoration Angel or Snapcaster Mage coming on. I path his souls out of the way as my opponent's at 5 life and I need to push through the final damage to kill him. Lo and behold, I get hit with a snappy Fatal Push that kills 2 of my attackers. He untaps and kills Thalia and plays Tassie G, unlocking the Stranded Collected Company in my hand, probably making him think he'd stabilised. I cast Collected Company while he's tapped out, taking Thalia and Wisp, although the souls in his graveyard will make it difficult for my Wisp to finish the game. He casts a 4 mana Lingering Souls from his hand, so that's more fucking souls tokens, which further slows my clock in the air. Fuck you, souls! However, he applies no pressure of Tasiga for fear of a group block, or my Vile having something nasty within it. Thalia makes my first drawn EE awkward as I have to cast it for 1 mana, and because I have no colourless sources I can only cast it for 1, so it can't hit tokens on 0. I need to draw a colourless land or get Thalia killed. My Wisp is chumped by a Souls token as per expected. His Snapcaster Brutality is my Flickerwisp to dismantle my clock in the air. Tectonic Edge to the rescue though, I now need to lure out his other Soul tokens, hopefully luring a bad attack in at the thought of Souls making him safe. My Stirring Wildwood on steroids gets double blocked and killed, and I choose to kill Tassie G over Snappy M. That doesn't work as a rap name. On his turn he makes a Gurmag after a Serum Visions, keeping the Lingering Souls in his graveyard to taunt me, to upset me, to make me feel nothing but malice. I draw a Mirroring Crusader, which is actually a fucking great draw here. When put into play off of a vial and an engine explosives blowing up his souls tokens, I get to surprisingly kill his Snapcaster Mage and then swing through what he thought was a safe defense with his Gurmag. He's dead. We move on to game 3. I'm looking into a hand where we once again place our trust in Vial. He paths our first Cat Jesus, allowing us to find the land we need. God bless you, Cat Jesus. He then makes a Tassie G. I Vial in a second Cat Jesus, untap, and path his Tassie G and beat down. He Flame Tendrils my board away, and I rebuild with a Blade Spacer and end step. He taps out for a Gurmag Angler on his turn, and I respond by flickering my Splicer to grow my board ever wider and create 10 power of attacks. I untap and wisp out his Gurmag, giving him no blockers, and crash in for the kill. GG, well played. Match 2, I keep a piece of removal, utility land on the Splicer, a risk some might say, no reward as we soon find out our opponent is Storm and I have little ways to interact with him. My path deals with his first Electromancer and Splicer comes down to apply some pressure, but by this time it's all too late. He plays Baral and then using his absolutely perfect hand goes off on turn 4 going Ritual, Metamorphose into Gifts and Give him. I'm then given some purely bullshit choices on how to split his guest piles, as he's enough to cast Past and Flames from his hand or from the graveyard with the added rituals that he'll grab. I concede with saxophone music playing in my ears and 20 copies of Grape Shot being put onto the stack. Okay, so we have a better chance game 2 now we know we're against Storm. However, the first game should have been a relatively easy matchup for us prior to them being able to bring in a plethora of creature removal options that kill our Thalias. On the play, 2 Thalias in hand, I'm super confident we can win this. The double collected company in this hand is clunky with a Thalia plan, but I prefer this to a mulligan to 6 with no actual way to interact with him storming off. Thalia number 1 eats a bolt on turn 2. I draw a 3rd copy of Company because Misery loves Company. Anger of the Gods deals with Thalia 2, which I path to ensure I hit the land drop to be able to cast the companies currently stranded in my hand. I draw a 5th land, of course. There wouldn't have been a land if I hadn't pathed her, but you know, Schrödinger's land on top of the deck and all that. A Scoos and Hierarch off of Company is strong, as Scoos interacts on an axis that will prevent him from going off without much effort. He casts a 2nd copy of Anger of the Gods, which feels super strong and makes me feel very sad. I Coco main phase, which is a mistake as a Wisp on his turn could have slowed him down. I hit another Hierarch and a sideboarded Vex Sage, which I put into the deck as a one-off in case he's playing Pyromancer's Ascension still, which is unlikely but not outside the realm of possibility. And basically I have nothing to stop him. He untaps and goes absolutely fucking mental. Chicken Oriental, making 50 goblins and gut shot me for approximately 1 million damage. His draw was so strong and ours was not, and our second Coco was bad. Onwards and upwards, fuck you Storm. We can Thalia and displace a hand, and it's slow, but not the worst of hands. Double Ghost Quantum into Jesus might well win us the game here. Our opponent is Affinity with a slow 1-mana draw. Cat Jesus and Thalia allow us to strangle his mana hard, and we strand most cards in his hand by blowing up his land. There's a bit of a back and forth as his Signal Pests and Vault Scourge create a race due to the lifelink, but as I widen my board beyond this, he realises he can't recover from this and he concedes. The rest of the cards in his hand might have made his opening hand stronger, but the Thalia Jesus plan stopped him, and we never get to see the plating or other similar crap come out of his hand. Game 2 I'm looking at a slow, cumbersome 7 to find a 6 I like, keeping a Stony, Displacer, Wisp hand, and bottoming anything that isn't a land with my Scry. I draw Declaration Stone and I slam Stony Silence on turn 2. I get all excited, my palms begin to sweat. The Declaration Stone is going to wreck this double Signal Pest board. I untap and deck his pests, and the combo is fucking real. He can't crack his clues because Stony Silence stops him. He concedes. Hashtag salty fucking robots. On to match 4, where I keep a Vial, Thalia and Splicer hand. My opponent opens with a 1-lander into Birds into Kerated on turn 2. Turn 3 he uses 4 mana to cast 2 Serum Visions through my Thalia, which feels good for me. We love you Thalia, you are our bae. I proceed to curve into Splicer and put on the beatdown. His Faithless Looting pitches 2 copies of Griselbrand, revealing him to be some rampy odd version of Griselbrand or some such nonsense. I make the decision to tick up my Vial to 4 so that Resto can join the fray. He untaps and through the fucking breach is an Emrakul. That was unexpected, terrifying, and not exactly what I wanted to see today. I have to sack 6 permanents, but I managed to sack all lands, vials and dorks, but thanks to my Restoration Angels and Blade Splicers, I have a lethal clock on board despite the sacking. He concedes before Emrakul hits me. Winning with an Emrakul on the other side of the field feels really good, not dissimilar to the feeling I get when I force my flaccid and limp cock into a jar of thick peanut butter. I open up a hand of 7 cards, including Rip, and decide to run it back. Even if Rip doesn't stop Breach, it will make Faithless Looting a little bit less valuable, and we saw that in game 1. My opponent famously loots an Ulamog and a breaking and entering into the bin, revealing that it's in fact some sort of crazy 5-colour expertise deck. I think. Fist of the Suns on turn 3 is scary to me as a 5-mana Ember Course, and I would struggle to beat at this point in the game. Wisp begins to lay the beat down. I then resto my Wisp on end step to remove the Fist from the game for a turn before we can untap the 5 mana. You aren't fisting anyone today, you fucking pervert. He makes a tapped land and passes back. I slam him with flyers and then Coco in my second main phase to see what I can get off of it. Even a Wisp allows me to do wispy silly stuff and take him off with Fist again for the turn. I hit Cat Jesus and Golem and play the Ghost Quarter in my hand and go to his draw step. He concedes in response to my Ghost Quarter activation, targeting his only white source. GG, well played. I keep a perfectly acceptable hand with Accelerant, Threat and Removal. It's the ever omnipresent Eldrazi Tron again, kids. Yay. He makes a Matter Shaper and I decide to path it in order to be able to apply pressure next turn, and I brace for a Thought-Knot Seer follow-up that will tear a hole in my hand. However, I draw a second copy of Path, which allows me to not have to worry about a Thought-Knot Seer so much. As Gandhi once said, better lucky than good. I continue to beat down and end up with 2 Cat Jesus, or Jizai, or Jizay, or whatever the plural of Jesus is. Jizzes? Jizz? Jesus jizzing? I dig through my library with my 2 consecutively drawn Horizon Canopy in order to find an answer for Thought-Knot Seer. I don't really find a straight up simple answer, but I play Eldrazi Displacer because the card is busted as fuck, and I end up unfortunately losing the Splice that's in my hand to a 3rd Thought-Knot Seer for my opponent. Displacer stops a walking ballista from equipping a Basilisk Collar, like scolding a bad dog. This is good because a death-touching pinger that reloads would be fucking horrendous. In response to the flicker, he shoots my Scoos, and I stupidly miss the opportunity to eat the freshly dead ballista to survive the 2 damage from it. Remember kids, it goes to the yard as a state-based effect before the ability resolves, meaning a ballista on 2 can never kill a Scoos if there's mana open and the player playing the Scoos is not stupid. I take a turn off from the Displacer Ring to resolve everyone's favourite elemental. Wisp flickers out a Thought-Knot Seer, finding me a land drop. Flickering Thought-Knot Seers in this matchup allows you to hit land drops and eventually allows you to flicker everything, ever, for the rest of time itself. I'm being serious here, placing the Thought-Knot Seers on the other side of the board can actually get you to the point where you can displace any threat they're trying to hit you with, and you can win against the Eldrazi matchups. This all, unfortunately, means I have to let him hit me with the Smasher equipped with the collar, so there's a 10-point life swing there. Then I hit the magical 6th land, and all possibilities are available to me. All bets are off, win Magical Christmas Land. I used Displacer to flicker my Wisp twice to take out both of his Thought-Knot Seers in his end step and draw 2 cards that I get to make use of next turn. However, in my turn I simply flicker out the Smasher and he concedes before I can crash him with my team and kill him. In game 2 I slam my Stoly Silence into play on turn 2, which lets the Thought-Knot Seer on turn 3 look at my hand. He sees nothing but gas and chooses to get rid of Collected Company. I untap and path the Thought-Knot Seer with the path I had in hand. He makes a Crucible of Worlds, which takes me off of any land disruption plan, and he also plays a Basilisk Collar. I make a Noble and a Wisp to begin the beatdown. He does nothing for a turn, which is concerning. I try to resto my Flickerwisp as end step in the resto presents a serious clock, but Wisp gets killed by Dismember, unfortunately. I don't play the Thalia on my hand, instead opting to create a 2-turn clock with a Gavin activation and 2 Hierarchs in play. I hit him for 6 with a huge voided up Restoration Angel. This leads to a fucking huge blowout and my opponent gets to all his dust my board away. The ache in my heart is real. It blows up my Stony, which enables his Basilisk Collar and a Walking Ballista for top. And the worst thing is if I played Thalia last turn, he couldn't have cast. Fuck my life. I have a turn to play a Thalia and a Wisp, but he resolves a Walking Ballista with Tron Online, equips a Basilisk Collar, and makes me feel absolutely defenceless. I conceded after 2 turns of not drawing a Vex Sage and getting beaten to death by the bastard thing. Game 3. I keep a 3-land double company hand and just assume I will get there. Jesus and Vex Sage have got my back. Jesus runs out and I decide to resolve the 3-drop instead of Ghost Quartering my opponent in order to be able to resto the Sage later or to be able to collect Company. He plays a Thought-Knot Seer and takes my resto and leaving me with 2 companies. And I still decide that sticking my Cocos on the stack is more important here than blowing up his lands. I hit a 5 damage clock off my first collected company in the form of Wisp and Selfless Spirit, another martyr who's willing to put the good of the format ahead of his own well-being. He makes a Matter Reshaper and doesn't swing, knowing that I would happily double block him. I Coco at second main phase into a Vex Sage and Blade Splicer, making my board super go wide. I attack with everything, knowing that Selfless Spirit will take one for the team if needs be. The maths works out that taking him to 5 leaves him dead to double Noble Hierarch played next turn alongside my Wisp. I use a tactical Ghost Quarter in as draw step to avoid a blowout from all his dust again by strangling him on mana. He chooses not to pay for Arbiter and loses the land entirely. My opponent resolves a Battle Scroll, which from his perspective and his side of the board would buy him a few turns. However, the 2 nobles in my hand turn Flickerwisp into a lethal threat, and I win in the air. GG. I hope you enjoyed the video. This is the list I will be playing at FNM this week and a winner box on the weekend. I might have to fiddle around with the numbers on wrestlers and companies and maybe play a Wrath of God on the sideboard, but I'll probably report back if I do well. If I don't do well, I'll just pretend I never said this and move on with my life. If you have any feedback on the video, my lines of play, the deck, or my jokes about my own dick, drop me a comment below. If you haven't subscribed already, then make sure you hit that subscribe button right now. I'll pause. Go on. Go on, press it. Have you done it yet? I can't actually see you. If you haven't realised this is a pre-recorded video, I can't actually see if you've done it. And of course, if you really want to support the channel, share the video with your friends on social media. As always, I've been Pleasantkenobi, the magic equivalent of Channing Tatum's left testicle.